Lo and behold, we have a new item that showed up, and it's in our SRC, our source directory. It's into our default package that we selected. I'll talk about packages a little bit later on as well. And we have our first program that's called myclass.java. Interesting. If we expand it out in the browser here, and this actually confuses a lot of experienced programmers, believe it or not. The whole format, the whole outline here, is just basically, think of it sort of like the file manager, and you're expanding out folders, and inside of the folders you're looking at information. So myclass.java has what we call a method, and the method is main. And method is, if you're familiar with programming at all, it's kind of like a function, actually. All classes will start out with the word class that basically tells us it's a class. So if we, and it doesn't really matter where we click on in here. As an example, I clicked on my class, and up here on the right hand side, my class was highlighted. You see that? If I click on main, main is highlighted. So this basically takes us deeper and deeper into the source code. You'll get a feel for it the more you use the interface. So at this point, it's a lot of information to absorb, so kind of just take it for granted. You know, this thing expands out and you can go into the class. What we're doing is we're actually writing our source code in this myclass.java file. And we have a template set up for us. The wizard did this for us when we created, and this was that option I selected to create the main method. Main is a function. It's void because it's not returning anything. I'm going to talk about return values for methods in lecture number 3, and after we get done with the basic program. So we'll learn more about public, private, and protected, static. We'll learn a little bit more about that. I'm going to save that one for later. Also, actually, when you put your mouse over, here's another thing that I probably should tell you, is that you get like little hints that come up. As an example, return type for main is void, which means there's nothing. It doesn't return anything. We could actually leave this. We could actually take out the arguments and make that empty if we wanted to, and just say public void main. Actually, we could leave out static if we wanted to as well. I'll get into those particulars as we go through. But what we want to do right now is we just want to create our first class, and our first class is going to print something to the screen. And what is it going to print to the screen? Well, it wouldn't be a Hello World program if it didn't print Hello World to the screen. So we just did this part, and if you haven't gotten this far, you can pause the video and go and try this stuff out again. You know, click on the create a Java class option, file new class, go ahead and create it. These are the instructions for it. Now we have the Java editor, which is the right hand side of the screen. And in the Java editor for Hello World, well, we called it myclass.java, it opens up automatically for us. And in there we saw the main method. Now we're going to enter something in, and you know, you can't do this, but I'm going to do it. I'm going to copy and paste it, and then I'm going to save it, and then let's run it, and we'll see what happens. Okay, so I'm going back to Eclipse, and you can take this stuff out actually if you want. These are just comments. In fact, this is another thing I need to tell you about. Comments in Java can follow the convention of the asterisk, excuse me, the forward slash with the asterisk, and kind of this kind of convention, where we anything that precedes, in fact we don't even need this here, we can take that out too. And that's a valid comment. In fact, we could put it all on one line if we wanted to. That's a valid comment. So we have this symbol, we have the comment that we want to put in there, and then we have a closing symbol, which is the asterisk and the forward slash that's giving us to us. This is actually the C style way of doing stuff, and then along came the Java and the C++ kind of format, which is the double. In fact, this only works for one line. So if I made 2 lines out of this, then it's going to say, what? You know, there's an error. And this kind of shows us what happens when we have an error as well. When we have an error, we're going to see something red show up in the left-hand column. if we hover the mouse over the error message, we get something that says a syntax error. Well, I don't know, this doesn't make any sense anyway. But if we want to turn it into a comment, we just put the backslashes in there again. Or, excuse me, the forward slashes. So I just made 2 lines of comments out of 1 line that existed there before. But I don't even want the comments. I'm going to get rid of the comments. I'm going to pull them out completely. And what I'm going to do is paste in what I just cut out of, oops, that's not what I wanted. What I'm going to do is paste in what I just cut out of that notepad window. And what did I cut out? Well, it's going to be our first method call. And this is kind of interesting because you don't know anything about object orientation, you don't know anything about methods or anything like that either. So let's just kind of walk through system out print line for a few minutes. We have system, and system is an object that we're going to run methods from, and I just misspelled it actually when I typed it in. Did I? System. Well, let's see. Well, it's not misspelled, but it's not finished. It's partial. So system is used to get input from the keyboard to put output onto the monitor to work with I/O. So system actually comes from iostream.h from a C++ perspective. In Java, it's one of the built-in classes that we're using. In fact, it's under the class java.language.system. And in there we have some methods. And methods are error, in, out, array, copy, console. And these are all the methods. And I'll get into what methods are soon, but not in this lecture. And we're going to use a method out. So we can actually, when we start typing, what ends up happening is a little pop-up screen comes over where we can actually kind of select if we wanted to and have it put us in automatically. Or we could type it. So this is one of the advantages you have with using Eclipse instead of using Notepad or something like that to write your source code with. Because, and you'll see, we can write it in Notepad and it's the same source code essentially. So after we've basically said out because we want to do output from the system, then well, you know, we're going to select the print line, and then we ended up putting in, let's say for example, if I start typing in print line, so it's going to say print. Well, actually, this is an interesting. A print line prints out hello world and puts a line return at the end of it. So we could say just print, let's say as an example, and not use a print line. And if we did that, well, we have to supply it with what it wants. But let's not run that method. Let's just run print line. And what we're doing essentially is putting text to the screen. So I'm going to say hello world from Barb. We'll customize our hello world program. And you might notice at the end, I've got this little red squirrely line thing. And if I put my, well, it's kind of small. If I hover my mouse over it, up there it is. It's telling us we have a syntax error. We need to insert a semicolon to complete the statement. So I'm going to put the semicolon in there. So I just put the semicolon in there. And you'll notice here, after every one of our lines of code, we have a semicolon. So if you're familiar with C or C++ programming, it's the same cement, it's the same syntax that we have to use. We have to put a semicolon at the end of each line. We can put spaces in here. That's not a problem at all. So we have actually completed our first program, and we can take this comment out if we like. You can't remove public class main. You need that. In fact, what we see here is like opening and closing bracket for public class main. And inside of public class main, well, my class, excuse me, we have public static void main, which is our method, which is inside of our class. And don't worry about it if you don't understand that terminology right now. I'm going to get to that in the next lecture because we haven't even started talking about that stuff yet. Alright, so let's just get our first program compiled. We've got some options here. We can save it. Not a bad idea. You can do a save all, and now I've just saved everything. I can also click on the project package right here, excuse me, the project, and I can right mouse click, and in my options that I have an option that says build path, import, fix, refresh, close project. If I scroll down to the bottom, what I'm looking for is this run as. And it's going to give me two options. It's say Java applet or Java application. What we just created was an application. Java applets, and we're going to go through those in the course as well, run from websites. We can take the applet, we can upload it to a web directory, and load it from our HTML code. And we're going to definitely create one of those. It's the same programming technique. We're just inheriting from applet instead of inheriting from object, essentially. So I'm going to actually come through here and I'm going to select to do a Java application. So I'm clicking on Java application, and I've got, maybe I need to zoom out a little bit here as well, so we can kind of see what's going on. There we go. When I selected to run it, what I've got down here on the bottom is what's called a console window, and the console window is giving us the output. And so you see it says hello world from Barb down here. If I want to say, let's just take out Barb. That's kind of stupid. Let's just take that out. Let me show you another way of running this. I can, come back up here and say run. There's a run menu right there, and just say run the program. And it's going to say, well, what are you going to run? Oh, it actually wants me to save it first. So I'm going to save my class.java. And you can select here, always save resources before launching if you wanted to. Actually, so it saves you that step. Now my output on the bottom here, I see it just says hello world. So I ran it. So we actually created our first program called Hello World, and we created the first source code file, myclass.java, and it's sitting over here, and we edited it a couple of times, and we had Hello World printing to the screen a couple of times, and you can run it either by the right mouse click button, or you can run it from the run menu. And if you select run from here, it doesn't really happen. It doesn't pop up a window. Nothing happens. We see down here, we say hello world. What we created was a DOS console application. And so the console down here is representing our DOS window. This is one of the beauties of Eclipse. We don't have to exit to DOS or do anything. But let's say we weren't using Eclipse. Let's just see what happened behind the scenes, actually. So I'm going to minimize this and minimize that. And I'm actually going to open up a DOS window. I probably should make here's my command prompt. I probably should make a desktop icon for it. Make it easy. In fact, I think I'll do that in the future. So now I have a DOS window opened up, and just make sure this is as big as possible.